I mean, maybe listen just in case. Get it? The docket is gold. My pockets are swole. Stop, drop, and roll. At lock, I'm the gold. It doesn't get old. Each episode, I just download. I'm just a fella that's hella intelligent now that I got me the code. Build me a yellow brick road. Hey, chillin', feelin'. How could I be this gifted? Millions, reelin'. Frying up all of these fish sticks. Enter all these competitions. I ain't seen no competition. Justice served can't stop the system. I suggest y'all stop and listen. Please rise, sit down. Pot is in session, get rich now. Invest in the best, yes. The investigator is nothing but fresh. Please rise, sit down. Pot is in session, get rich now. Go by the book, yeah. The lawyer is loyal, now come take a look. Go.
Okay, let's go. Welcome to the DFS Docket on sportsradiodetroit.com, sidelinesquib.com, on all of your podcast network, Podbean, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you may listen to podcasts, you can listen to us. Abe, the DFS detective, Josh Faber here with you. Week 15 of the NFL season. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at DFS_Docket. Follow our boys at Sports Radio DET and at Sideline Squib. We're going to break down everything for you tonight. We got semifinals, we got playoffs, we got DFS. Listen, if you're out of your DFS, if you're out of your season long, if you're out of your dynasty, if you're out of your keeper, you're out of the playoff. Look, it's for most leagues, it's come down to the final four. And a lot of you out there, you play 10, 12, for the most part, team leagues. There's a higher chance than not that you're out of the playoffs at this point. But fantasy football is not over. It's an old bit. It is, and everyone talks about, oh, your season's not over yet. Well, let's be real. It's not over. We're all telling the truth about it. The season's not over yet. You still can go out there, play fantasy football, and hell, make a lot of money doing so. So, Josh, good evening. And by the way, I can't believe I forgot to mention this last week. We are very public on the show about you and I both being Jewish. How in the hell did I not wish everyone a happy Hanukkah last week?
Well, was it Hanukkah last week when we did it? I think we were the day before.
I think we recorded on Hanukkah.
We might have. Regardless, happy Hanukkah, everybody listening out there now. We're still doing it. What's up, George? Hitting us up.
Playoffs.
But speaking of playoffs, by the way, I mean
playoffs.
I snuck my way into the Squib playoffs and had a showing this week. I don't know if you saw that.
You won, didn't you?
Won by about 50.
No kidding. Just to get destroyed this week.
Now I'm facing my boy Cheeseburger, who not only went undefeated into the playoffs, but in his bye week,
he scored like 200 something points.
Yeah, got like 210 or something. So we'll see. It's not looking good. We'll get, and if we can kind of jump right into headlines with it, I started Rojo, as I told you, because Gibson was hurt. Well, now Rojo's hurt, and like I said, kind of bearing the lead with headlines there, but. With that finger surgery, I don't know who I'm starting as my second running back this week. So,
well, luckily for you, you do have Dalvin Cook on that roster, and for most people, that actually equals 2 starting running backs at one point.
Right. So
you have that going for you. But yeah, I'm looking through your roster right now. It looks like it might be a James White week, but now you know what I've been going through in that league this entire season.
Right.
Because I've had Boston Scott in my starting lineup for half the year because either Nick Chubb or I had Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs.
Right.
And they just decided that they're never going to play on the same week, apparently. So I started Boston Scott half my season. So that's on me for not really drafting well. But I mean, you draft 2 running backs early, you got to fill out the rest.
Yeah. Tough league.
The rest at some point. Let's get the headlines. We did record on Hanukkah, so
okay.
But luckily for us, Hanukkah does last 8 days. John, all right? So I've been getting this question a lot in the non-Hanukkah world.
Right.
Do you give your kids 8 days worth of gifts?
At this age, we do. it's not always huge things. But we do they get something every night. And in my family, I got something every night, probably till I was about 10 or 11. And then it was like, I remember the first year that it was a night that we lit, and I was like, all right, Mom, Dad, what's up? Where's the presents? And they're like, you got one yesterday. They're like, chill. I'm like, yeah, right. But it's another night of Hanukkah. And they're like, all now, right.
Are you doing you give your kids one gift per night, or is it all right, the first night it's you and your wife, and then the next night it's your parents, and the night after that it's your in-laws, or
so
sort of rotation like that?
On the nights so my parents live here, my in-laws don't. On the night that my parents do it, and first of all, the way they do it, it just puts every other night that we have to shame. They just go to whatever toy store and buy out the shelves and bring it over.
I take my kids to the dollar store and say, have at it.
Yeah, that's what I wish that's what I got to start doing, at least to try to, at least in the amount that my parents get, to try to match that. Because I'm telling you, they come here and then it's just a graveyard of paper and boxes, and my house is just full of trash until the garbage day.
And realistically, the toys that they get at this age, even I know your kids, a couple of your kids are younger than mine. We have one that's probably the same age at about 1 year old. So
right.
They don't really care at this point about anything. Right. But the older ones, at least, I know when my kids get presents, especially when they were closer to your kids' age, 4 or 5 years old or so, they lost that stuff after a week maximum.
They lose it. They open it, they're excited, and then they never look at it again, and they want something new. Never. So, but my parents just spend an obscene amount of money on buying an obscene amount of gifts. So that'll be one night, and my in-laws, they send a bunch of stuff from out of town. That's another night. Then my wife and I kind of fill in the rest, and too many toys. Just too many toys. My house is
it's too much.
My wife and I threw out boxes of toys before Hanukkah started because we knew what was going to happen, and we still have no room for any of this stuff.
When we moved, as you all know, we moved into our new home /studio back in July. And when we were moving, we just said, the hell with all these extra toys. There's just so much and unnecessary. I'm not going to give a new baby 8-year-old toys that he's never going to play with anyway. And the kids are never going to look at this stuff regardless. And when I throw it out, none of us are even going to realize. So it's just the hell with all of it. The hell with all of it.
Yeah, agreed.
But let's get into our show, and let's get into headlines.
Here are tonight's top stories.
So, Josh, you kind of touched on Rojo, finger injury. Breaking news today, he did have surgery on his finger, but the surgery seems to be the same surgery Chris Godwin had. He was out 1 week. Ronald Jones, probably same circumstances, will probably be out for this week, which is going to affect a lot of you playing the Atlanta Falcons, which is surprisingly a good defense against the run, but mostly because it's similar to the Jets being a good fantasy defense against the run. When your pass defense is that bad, just keep throwing on them. So it doesn't saying that they have a good run defense. It's really blown out of proportion. They really don't.
Right.
The other couple big news from the week. Christian McCaffrey injured again last week, trying to get back. He seems like he really wants to get back. Matt Rule has already said that he's been ruled out for week 15. So for all of you that have gotten here to this point, because you drafted McCaffrey 101, getting here to this point, unbelievable ownership work by you. Great work to be able to get McCaffrey here and now, to be in the position you're in, and you're hoping for that superstar to come off injured reserve and be your guy for the playoffs. I don't think I'm almost positive he's not going to play in week 15, and even week 16. If he does play, expect a much lighter workload.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not going to say I feel bad for any McCaffrey owner, because I think in 6 of my 7 season-long leagues, season-long redraft leagues, I had Saquon. So again, I'm not going to say I feel bad for them after going what I've gone through, but no, I feel bad. I just, I've had it worse, but I feel bad for them. And yeah, like you said, if you've gotten here, and by the way, we gave a shout out to our boy Cheeseburger. Let's give a little shout out to Wilson in the Squib League as well, who I believe drafted CMC and he's in the playoffs.
Listen, that guy, not only did he draft CMC at the 101,
he traded up.
He traded his first round pick. I think he had like 7 or 8 or so. He traded his first and second round picks to go up and get him, and he missed the whole season. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to him for drafting well late.
And hey, and let's be real, we all thought that was a dumb move what he did, but he's sitting where only 3 other teams are right now. So, but yeah. So look, if you made it there, but you cannot trust CMC this week. I would not play him, like you said, even if he is healthy to go. The workload's not going to be there. They're not trying to ruin their franchise guy when they're already out of the playoffs.
Speaking of franchise guys, your franchise guy, Matthew Stafford, looked to just get absolutely destroyed at some point during the game last week. It's reported that he's in an incredible amount of pain. Highly unlikely he plays this week against who the hell? Wow, I had in my notes. Who the hell are they playing this week?
Lions?
Yeah, who are the Lions playing?
The Lions are playing.
I just had it.
Tennessee. They're playing Tennessee. They're playing the Titans.
Playing Tennessee. Yes, you are correct. They're playing the Tennessee Titans at home. I should know that.
A little foreshadowing. Get ready for my stack of the week, and it's not the Lions.
Damn you! You can't do that. That's my stack of the week. Damn it! I'll start looking. You son of. Yeah. All right. Well, foreshadowing. Ryan Tannehill, AJ Brown, stack of the week. There, I said it first.
Yeah, I think that might be a short segment this week.
Yeah. So Stafford's most likely going to be out. Kenny Galladay already out. DeAndre Swift looked okay, but I'm still head injuries scare the hell out of me. Tennessee's defense isn't as good, especially in fantasy wise. They have not been very productive. But I don't know what of the Lions I can trust. I do have a certain player that we're going to bring up later as my sneaky play of the week. But what's your take on Stafford's injury? What it means for this entire roster right now?
Well, I mean, here's what it means. It means that first of all, there's a chance that Stafford has played his last game in a Lions jersey.
I believe that.
And he's putting a lot of years and a lot of time with our organization. I would wish him nothing but the best if he wasn't here. I think it might be the best move for the roster to kind of part ways and move on. But look, Stafford's a gamer. Everyone knows that. Anyone who says he's not hasn't watched football. He's a gamer. He tries hard. There have been, I heard a quote from Ndamukong Suh. I think his exact quote was, "The elevator doesn't reach the top floor." Maybe that has to do with, being able to read progressions and read defenses, et cetera. But the bottom line is the guy's a gamer, and I wish him nothing but the best. The guy balls out. He's we all know his the numbers with the fourth quarter comebacks. And he's also helped help people like Calvin Johnson and Kenny Galladay be fantasy relevant. Now, obviously, those guys are skilled on their own, but they have a gunslinger throwing them the ball, which really helps. And when you have Chase Daniel throwing the ball, it doesn't help. So you downgrade everybody on that roster. Obviously, the short, intermediate passes across the middle are going to be there for a guy like Hawkinson, but it doesn't help Hawkinson, I don't think, who right now is the number 3 tight end in fantasy football this year. I don't think it helps the running game because I think you're going to get a lot more stacked boxes. It hurts everywhere around. One thing about Stafford is that he could run an offense, and you knew that the offense, there was always a threat that we were going to score points when he was under center. He's not. I don't expect much success from this offense going forward.
No, it's scary. It's scary. It's scary to play any of those guys this week. And I kind of agree with you about what you said about Stafford and it being his last game with the Lions. I don't think he comes back this year. There's absolutely no need for it. He's been his wife at least has been very vocal about not wanting to be in Detroit, wanting to be somewhere where it's a lot warmer and she's voiced her very public opinion about a certain governor of a certain state that she's not too thrilled with. So,
and let's not forget their house has been up for sale here for a little while.
Yeah, yes, it has been. I looked at it; it's very nice. It's way out of my price range.
Yeah. I was gonna buy it, and then I woke up.
When you advertisers out there, hit us up. We'd love to take your money and go buy Matthew Stafford's house.
Yes,
that would be the dream. All right, let's get to the main slate for this week. A little bit of a lesser slate with a couple games on Saturday. We have the Thursday game with the Chargers and the Vegas Raiders, and then we got a couple on Saturday and obviously one on Monday. So this week we got Tampa Bay versus Atlanta, Seattle and Washington, Chicago and Minnesota, Houston versus Indy, Detroit versus Tennessee. Oh, that game's in Tennessee. I thought it was in Detroit for some reason.
Yeah.
Jacksonville versus Baltimore, New England and Miami, San Francisco and Dallas, and then the 3-4 o'clock games are the New York Jets, who won't score a point against the Los Angeles Rams, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Arizona Cardinals, and Kansas City versus New Orleans. Now, before we start, Josh, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
New Orleans and Kansas City could very well possibly be a Super Bowl preview. Correct?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
possible. I'm not saying definitively, but it's certainly possible. What in the hell is the NFL thinking by moving the Giants and the Browns to Sunday Night Football instead of the Chiefs and the Saints?
well, that is a very good question. The Browns are a decently legit team.
That was a great game Monday night. Woo!
Oh,
Okay, one more headline. Hold on. One more headline.
Lamar's dump.
Lamar 100% took a dump in that game. And not in the game. I mean, actually, literally took a dump in the locker room in between plays. Like, we're all definitive on that, right? There's no like, oh, he got cramps and got an IV. You know? No, he had cramps because he had to poo. We're all on board with this, correct?
And just like, when I have to do anything, when I got to take a dump, and then I do, I play a lot better. And that's clearly what happened to him.
It had to be a big dump because he was running fast as hell after that.
Yeah.
Lost 3 pounds.
I love the, they have all those memes of, with DK running down Buda Baker.
Yep.
And my favorite new one is Buda Baker, over Buda Baker, it says Browns lead. And then over DK, it says Lamar after he takes a dump. But that was working. But yes, how come the Browns Giants is flex instead of the Chiefs and the Saints? The only thing that it's stupid because it's quite possibly the best team in the NFC versus the best team in football.
Yep.
And I mean, just to get the first place New York Giants on national TV to get the New York market.
I'm with you. It doesn't.
I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. None whatsoever. All right, let's get into the main slate. Because Mahomes is playing in the 4 o'clock game. You got Mahomes at the highest paid quarterback at $7,900, followed by Lamar Jackson at $75 and Russell Wilson at $73. Where's your takes on this week's quarterback position? Besides freaking Ryan Tannehill. That's okay. We've already discussed it. Ryan Tannehill is at $6,700, probably your best bet to play. Besides Ryan Tannehill, where else are you going?
Okay, again, like you said, Tannehill's the obvious one, and I think we can just say for running backs and receivers as well, it's going to be Derrick Henry, and it's going to be both A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. Moving on from that, I mean, Jared Goff is just, he's gonna cook against your Jets. They just don't have a good defense. They don't stop people. The only thing that might hurt them is, depending on how big their lead is by halftime, is how much they switch to just Cam Akers in the running game there. But I expect a big game out of Goff. I think that'll be a good one. If Taysom Hill plays, I mean, Taysom Hill is just a point producer in fantasy. Is he the guy that I would want? And is he the guy that I would want as my starting quarterback on a team, especially in the playoffs, if God forbid for them that has to happen? Not really, but I mean, outside of the weird game against Philly, they've been winning with him and winning pretty handedly. The guy's averaging well over 20 points a game in fantasy, as a starting quarterback. And against Kansas City, who has a much better defense than in years past, doesn't have an exceptional defense. And I expect, Taysom Hill, they're not going to win that game, but they're going to be putting up points. That's for sure. If you kind of look at what Taysom Hill does, obviously, he's the quarterback, but does a lot of his damage on the ground as well. Kansas City gives up the 20th against the running back in fantasy this year. So keep that in mind when you're playing Taysom Hill. He will be able to put up points on the ground in this game.
Let me give you a guy who only costs $5,900 this week, starting in the second game ever. One Jalen Hurts playing against the Arizona Cardinals. Look, I am not a big believer in Jalen Hurts. I do not think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback, but his floor is incredibly high because he ran 18 times for 106 yards. Now, he did lose a fumble. That can always be fixed. He didn't score a touchdown. That can always change. But 18 carries for a quarterback, that's crazy, right? He threw 17 for 30, 167, one touchdown. Not a great passing game, but somewhat expected from a guy like Jalen Hurts. I think his floor is so high because of that running game. At $5,900, he's an absolute steal of a player. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, my problem with Jalen Hurts here is twofold. One is I'm worried a lot of people are going to be playing him, which, depending on how well he does, doesn't really matter. But obviously, if you're playing GPP and you're not playing a cash game, I feel like his ownership is going to be pretty high considering that price point, right? When you're building your team, if you can start off with start off with a $1,500 quarterback, you're going to have a lot of money elsewhere. The other thing is that I just don't know what to make of that game last week and what he does. Obviously, he didn't have a lot of success throwing the ball last week. I mean, he didn't do bad, but it was like $150 he threw through the air.
That was against the Saints. That was against one of the best defenses in football in the New Orleans Saints. And now he's going up against
right. Arizona does not have a great defense, but the thing about Arizona, and you could say this about the Saints game too, but Kyler Murray started to play a little bit better last week and a little bit healthier. If they really start to roll and it becomes a passing game where they're not looking to just get damage done on the ground, I don't know how well he's going to be. If it's a shootout, air it out game, I don't know how well Jalen Hurts does. Maybe it doesn't come to that, though. And you're right. He did it against a team that scores just as well as Arizona and a team with a better defense in Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, even Kyler Murray in that game also is a guy I'd want to get all in on. Tom Brady, $6,600. We already talked about Rojo and how he's hurt now. Rojo's hurt. We don't know what the running game is going to be like for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's very possibly and we don't know if Leonard Fournette's going to be active or not. Right. It's very possibly going to be a game that Tom Brady throws the ball 50 times. Right. And there's no reason to think he doesn't complete, 35 of those for 303 touchdowns.
Let me switch gears here for a second because we're talking about quarterbacks, and we're not going to be talking about him because he's not on the main slate. But our boy Justin Herbert, who we have come to love over the past couple weeks, his fantasy scoring's been down a little bit as of late.
He's come back down to earth, and we all expect. Look, against New England, nobody was really surprised that he had a poor game. But against Atlanta, everyone expected that big bounce back, and it didn't happen. Now, listen, I have Herbert in a redraft 2-quarterback league. I'm in the semifinals. I'm playing him against Vegas. I'm playing him over Ben Roethlisberger. I'm playing him over Andy Dalton. I'm playing Justin Herbert. I still trust him.
Sure. And here's the other thing about Herbert, too, which is, he didn't have the greatest fantasy day, Derek. And by the way, after we finish this question, I'm going to give Derek a little bit more love on something else. But he didn't have the greatest fantasy week. But I mean, he did lead the team to a last second win. he threw a pick, but he still threw for about 250 and 2 touchdowns, and did hit our boy Keenan Allen, who I stacked him with last week. And by the way, if you did play that lineup, you cashed, in the lineup that we posted, and just kind of a little shout out to ourselves, guys. If we're giving you lineups, throw that lineup in, because those lineups cash just about every week. But
we've been on hot streaks.
Yeah, we've been on big hot streaks.
Been on a tear.
Yeah, but he's kind of turned into like he's almost coming back into earth and meeting where he was having great fantasy weeks, but his team wasn't winning games, and now it's kind of switching where he had a nice game, his team won and he had a nice game, but it wasn't a great fantasy week. And I expect that as he gets more games under his belt, for him to kind of be able to put both together. But let me give a little bit of love to Derek over here, and I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder too. Derek asked last week about starting TY. All right, you were against it. I told him do it. I saw the targets were coming TY's way. I was in favor of it. You weren't, but it was Derek's call. It wasn't our call, right? It was Derek's call.
And I can tell you this, because I texted Derek's my boy, and I texted him last week after Hilton's first touchdown. I said, how's TY doing for you? And I just got a bunch of curse words and middle fingers sent my way.
Well, hopefully when he asked, he went with my advice and not yours and had him in his lineups.
Right. Well, I know for a fact that he didn't. But this week, I would 100% start T.Y. Hilton this week against Houston. He tears up the Houston Texans. All right, let's move over to the running back position. Derrick Henry, dude. Derrick Henry against Detroit is going to eat. I said last week I expected 200 yards for him against Jacksonville. I still forgot to start him. Yeah. Way to go, Derek. Fantastic work. Fantastic work as always. Genius. Derrick Henry, I predicted 200 yards and 2. I think he only got 201 against Jacksonville this week. This week against the Detroit Lions, he's at $9,500. He's still going to score a ton of points. That's a really high price point. Followed by Dalvin Cook, who's just a monster, $9,000, and then a big drop down to Alvin Kamara at $7,400. So where are you going with the running backs? Are you willing to take Derrick Henry?
Here's the thing. We talk again every week about the 3X that you probably need to hit in order to cash on your lineups. Derrick Henry could easily have a 30-point game against the Lions. That is just so much. That's a lot of money, though.
In the first half.
Yeah. You have to put in. But here's the thing: we love Tannehill, we love Henry, we love AJ Brown, we love Corey Davis. Pick a couple of those guys and get them into your lineup. It's going to be very difficult for all those guys to score and to be worth their value, be worth their price point. Derrick Henry could do it. He certainly can. That's just a lot of money that you have to have a really smart lineup elsewhere if you're going to have Henry in your lineup. So if I'm going to put Henry in, who of course we all love, I wish there was a guy like, we always talk about how they don't know what they're doing with their pricing here, but they got it right finally, right? Jonathan Taylor was $5,500 and $5,800. Well, they bumped him up to the 4th most expensive running back. So it's not like you can pair a Derrick Henry with a JT this week. You can pair him if you go all the way down with a guy like a Gus Edwards.
Dude, I'm looking. JT had a huge jump. He was $5,800 last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they finally priced him right.
That's a huge jump. So much of a jump that like it kind of worries you to play him because he was so not even up and down. He was up and down in the depth chart for Indy, not just so much playing wise. I'm a little worried about Jonathan Taylor just because of the price point. It could be a Nyheim Hines game, and I sure hope not. I'm starting Taylor in my redraft league against.
If you have Taylor in season long, you're playing him.
No, I absolutely. It just worries me paying for that price point, like at $7,200. I'd rather pay the $7,000 for David Montgomery, where I know he's the absolute guy, no questions asked.
Play David Montgomery, another guy who was in our lineups last week. But if you're going with a Derrick Henry, I'll kind of go down to a guy that I like way lower. Now again, they always say don't play last week's points, right? Don't look at a guy. Don't look at everyone who did well, especially the long shot guys who maybe had a good game, and be like, well, I'm just going to play him this week too. If you're chasing last week's points, you're not going to do too well. But I'm going to play a guy like Gus Edwards this week, especially if I'm playing a guy like Derrick Henry where I need to save on my second running back, because the one thing we've seen from Baltimore now is they're committed to the run. Mark Ingram, whether he plays or not, is just a non-factor. J.K. Dobbins is starting to come into his own. But Gus Edwards, not only does he get some carries, he gets important carries. He gets goal line carries. I mean, his 2 touchdowns weren't long touchdowns last week. He gets meaningful carries. I would assume that he's earned more carries after the way he played last week, going up against a Jacksonville defense that does not stop anybody on the ground. I expect Baltimore to go up big early, and I expect a lot of Gus Edwards carries. And like I said, even in a close game, like we saw last week, he gets the meaningful carries. He does. And Gus Edwards is a guy that I think could be primed to maybe not have another 2 touchdown game, but I'm not going to be shocked if he has another, 50 all-purpose yards and a touchdown, and maybe a catch or 2. And now I got 13, 14 points out of a $4,400 running back. I think 44 is his price. Yeah. I'll take that. Pair that with a guy like Derrick Henry if I need to save the money.
So, little spoiler alert for my lineup this week that's going to be on sidelinesquib.com. Again, go to sidelinesquib.com. Just create an account. You create an account and you get free access to all of our lineups for the remainder of the season. That's going to go through the NFL playoffs. You still have DFS during that point. And I'll tell you,
keep in mind, free lineups, and these lineups are hitting week in and week out. That is literally free money that the website is giving you.
Right. And look, listen, for those of you that are kind of new to DFS, DFS does go on during the NFL playoffs, but it's a different game. It's a completely different game going on during that point. So you got to pay attention to different things happening in the NFL at that time. And there's only one place to find out all the best information. That's over here at the DFS Docket. So a little spoiler alert for you. I do have Gus Edwards in my lineup provided to the people, along with Dalvin Cook. I have Dalvin Cook ahead of Derrick Henry because at the $500 difference, I kind of needed that little bit extra money in other places. But sure. I still think Dalvin Cook, he proved last week against Tampa Bay, a team that hasn't given up a 100-yard rusher all season since last year. They haven't given up a 100-yard rusher, and of course, Dalvin Cook's the guy to do it. I think with Chicago, it's going to be a non-issue. He's going to score a whole bunch of points yet again.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay is the number 2 running defense against fantasy running backs. So
yeah,
if you can do it against them, you're going to do it against anybody.
I'm with you 100%. All right, let's go over to the wide receiver position. Tyreek Hill is your number 1 guy, also $9,500. No, he's not. He's at 80. I was looking at Derrick Henry. $8,800. It switched over to Derrick Henry. Like, what? What are the odds of that? Tyreek Hill at $8,800, followed by DK Metcalf, $86, and Calvin Ridley at $82. Before we go to receivers, so one more thing about running back. One more guy I recommend playing at $6,600. Cam Akers is the number 1 guy with the Rams. Darrell Henderson is basically non-existent anymore, and Malcolm Brown I don't even know if he suits up anymore at this point. All right. Yeah. Tyreek Hill against New Orleans, DK Metcalf against Washington, Calvin Ridley against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at $8,200. Josh, which high-end receivers are you going for? And more importantly, which low-end, high-ceiling guys are you trying to attack?
So, I mean, look, I hope because Cheeseburger in Squib League there has Tyreek Hill. I hope he has a terrible game, but I don't think he's going to. He never does. But
I need Tyreek to do nothing this week.
He's probably not going to do nothing, but is he going to put a 30 spot, which is close to what you need out of him to make it worth it? I don't know. I mean, New Orleans is a good deep passing defense, so I would be staying away from Tyreek Hill for that price point. Even if Julio plays, I think Calvin Ridley is a good play here because Tampa Bay, as good as their run defense is, we just talked about, their pass defense is about as bad against fantasy wide receivers. So Calvin Ridley is a good play, but I wouldn't be playing Calvin Ridley if Julio is healthy. Give me Julio Jones there for only $6,900. I mean, Julio, we know the classic story. He's hurt a lot, but when he plays, he balls out. And
I am worried about his health to play. Even if he does suit up and play, hamstring injuries that he's been dealing with all
they linger. They definitely linger. But he was close to suiting up last week, and he didn't. Now, who even knows if he plays this week? But for $6,900, that's probably a gamble that I would like. And then I really like, obviously, outside of the Tennessee boys, which we've talked about,
dude,
and we all love.
AJ Brown's going to explode.
Yeah. But again, like, we don't have to waste our breath talking about how much damage he's going to do against the Lions. Give me the Rams boys. Give me Kupp. Give me Woods. They're very similarly priced. Kupp is about $200 more. Now it happens to be that as of late, as of the last game, Robert Woods didn't have a spectacular game, but I mean, Woods is still balling out. I mean, the game before that against Arizona, he had 18 points. With Kupp, I think you get a little bit more consistency. But a little bit more consistency, but you probably get the higher ceiling out of Woods. So, for $200 less, I'd like Woods here if you're only going to choose one.
All right. So T.Y. Hilton has to be in your lineup. We kind of touched on him because of Derek's dumb question from last week. But at $5,500,
for low price guys, absolutely, you're not going to get any better value than that.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton, I mean, almost a must start. Hollywood Brown, he had a 50-yard touchdown this week, 44-yard touchdown reception this week. He had a couple really, really bad drops, but he's playing Jacksonville, and at $5,600, he's such a a low risk, high reward kind of guy. Hollywood has to be in your lineup this week. High end guys love Allen Robinson this week against Minnesota. I don't care who their quarterback is. Allen Robinson is just so freaking consistent week in, week out. DeAndre Hopkins, I'll take him in my lineup every opportunity I can get. Terry McLaurin, despite going up against what's ranked as the worst fantasy defense against the wide receiver position, is most likely going to have Dwayne Haskins as his quarterback. I don't trust Dwayne Haskins worth a crap.
Was his college quarterback, though?
Yeah, and I know, and we all thought, all right, this is going to help Dwayne Haskins last year. This is going to help Terry McLaurin last year, and it didn't. If anything, it made it worse. So just because they were college teammates doesn't mean that they were on the same page at any point.
Right.
It doesn't mean Terry McLaurin was still a third-round pick. If he was that great in college because of Dwayne Haskins, he could have been drafted earlier. So I'm staying away from Terry McLaurin this week. Let me give you this. Let's do this.
Wow. You kind of just snuck up on me there, man. I fear you're underestimating the sneakiness, sir.
Oh, yeah. My sneaky play of the week, kind of touched on it a little earlier, but it's Danny Amendola of the Detroit Lions. $4,200. Look, Chase Daniel's going to have to throw the ball to somebody. It's not going to be TJ Hawkinson for 20 targets. The offensive line is absolute trash. It's going to be a lot of short passes with the backup quarterback, and who better than your slot receiver to get a lot of those targets? Like, I don't expect Amendola to have 14 catches for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I can absolutely see him going 9 catches for 75 yards. And if that's the case at that price point, that's in DraftKings, which is a PPR format, that's 16 points right there. For a guy you're paying $4,200, you're getting 4x what you paid for. Give me Amendola all day this week
for sure. And let me give you just 2 more guys, 2 more receivers, one kind of mid price and one low price guy that I like. If you're looking at kind of mid price guys, Brandon Ayuk is $6,300. Brandon Ayuk single-handedly won me 2 playoff matches last week on the last drive of the game where I was down about 3.5 points, and he the last play of the game had 2.5 points because he had or had about 3 points because he had like a 19-yard catch, and the drive it was either the drive or the play before that had another like 10-yard catch. The guy.
Can I ask you a Brandon Ayuk question real quick?
Yeah,
because this show has been all about Derek. Everything about Derek. Derek wants to know about Justin Herbert. Derek wants to give credit for T.Y. Hilton. Let me ask you this dynasty trade offer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Lamar Jackson for Brandon Ayuk. Which side of the ball are you on?
Super flex or one quarterback?
One quarterback. You know it's Lamar. You know it's.
I was gonna say it's still. I'm trying to justify in my head why it wouldn't just be Lamar. It's still Lamar.
It's still Lamar. I'm trying to pull this trade up right now.
It's still Lamar
because earlier this season, your boy Derek traded Lamar Jackson away for Brandon Ayuk.
Did he have? Who are his other quarterbacks?
I don't think there are any. Well, he's got to have somebody.
I mean, he's got to have somebody. I don't love it. Derek, I love you. I don't love it, though.
You know what? He might have Russell Wilson.
But here's a question, Derek.
He does have Russell Wilson. But
look, I love Ayuk. Especially in Dynasty, I love Ayuk. And I'm about to tell you why I love Ayuk. If you look at Ayuk obviously missed a couple games because of COVID and injury and whatnot. But look at since week 7, right? So since week 7, he's played week 7, 8, 10, 13, 14. At no point since week 7 has he scored less than 19.7 points, right? In week 7, he had 20. In week 8, he had 23. In week 10, he had 19.7. Against Buffalo, he had 20.5. And then last week against a good defense in Washington, he had 25 points. Okay? The guy is so good. But the only thing Wilson – here's my thing, Derek, though. Could you have gotten something a little bit – not that I love Ayuk, and I understand it's dynasty, but could you have gotten a DK? Could you have not gotten DK for Lamar? Could you have not gotten Tyreek Hill for Lamar?
Here's the full trade. It was Lamar Jackson, Alexander Madison, and a 4th-round pick in next year's rookie draft.
Okay.
For Chase Edmonds and Brandon Ayuk. Yep.
I don't love it, Derek. I love you, but I don't love it.
But you know what? When you're all in on a guy, when you absolutely
you gotta get him in dynasty. You don't have a chance.
You do what you need to do to go get the guy. And yeah, quarterbacks. I'm not going to say they're exactly a dime a dozen. And Lamar was a 1st-round pick in this league.
Yeah.
You get the high end of the high end, but you have a Russell Wilson. Ryan Tannehill to me is just a backup anyway.
I would have rather have seen you trade Wilson for him because Wilson and Tannehill aren't the youngest out there.
Right. I mean, Lamar's in year 3. Right. All right. Enough bashing Derek for right now. We'll get back to more of that later. We move to so here's something that Derek likes. Let's get to the tight end position. We start off with Travis Kelce at $8,000. I mean, Kelsey's just a monster. If you can slot him into your lineup, he's just so freaking consistent. Followed by Mark Andrews at 55, and then George Kittle. Don't play George Kittle. He's not going to play this week. One guy I want to bring up because he comes so close to my heart. He's at $4,800 this week. He's most likely not going to play. But that's Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki has been just on absolute fire the last couple weeks. He was my guy. He was my all in on tight end this year. I predicted him to have a top 5 finish. Right now, I think he's number 6 overall, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna pull it up, but he's up there, just not as consistent as one would hope. But had a great game last week, and then just got hurt, and I feel terrible for Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, I mean, Gesicki was the guy that last week we highlighted. That we really liked last week against.
He's the number 5 tight end on the season right now.
The guy we really liked, against Kansas City last week. Like you said, he's hurt. I don't play him. He's going to miss this game for sure. But yeah, he's finally started to come into his own. But if I'm looking at guys that I like this week, I'm kind of saying I'm staying away from Kelce. Just in terms of price point, that's you're never going to be disappointed. But again, if you're
the dude's going to go 7 for 100 and a touchdown, it.
Yeah, but seven for 100 and a touchdown, it puts you there, right? It puts you at the price point. You're just really weak elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at other tight ends and say
you're not able to play Dalvin Cook,
right?
But then again, I mean, who would you rather have, Dalvin Cook or Travis Kelce? Where Dalvin Cook, I mean, for the most part what you're getting from both of them. But
I'll tell you why I go with Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook over Travis Kelce, which is that you can still get you're going to pay $9,000 for what DraftKings considers the second best running back, or you could pay $2,500 less for what DraftKings considers the second best tight end. Now, again, the difference between Kamara and Dalvin is not the same as the difference between Kelce and Andrews, because you're getting a much bigger difference with Kelce and anyone else behind him. But if I can play a couple lineups and get the right tight end here without playing Kelce, you're gonna have a lot of success this week. Mark Andrews, it hasn't been the Mark Andrews of last year, but he's coming on a little bit, getting those double-digit games. Jacksonville is a bad defense. It could happen with Mark Andrews this week. Another guy that I really like here is Logan Thomas. He's only $4,000. Logan Thomas is kind of settling in as Logan Thomas is either going to get you 6 catches or a touchdown every week at this point. For his price point, you're already almost there, right? I mean, last week 7 targets. The week before that, he was 9 of 9 on targets against a really good Pittsburgh defense. The week before that, they didn't need to pass the ball so much because they were blowing the doors off of that Dallas game, just beating the snot out of them. But he still went for 4. He caught 4 of his 4 targets for a touchdown in that game. I mean, like I said, with Logan Thomas, you're gonna get those red zone looks. There's gonna be a high chance of scoring, and he's heavily targeted. Granted, you said it before when it came to McLaurin, he's playing with Dwayne Haskins, but he's still a focal point of that offense now. So I really still like Logan Thomas against a pretty bad Seattle defense. And I really think tight end is kind of a crapshoot from there. I mean, Irv Smith did have his game last week, and Chicago doesn't really defend the tight end so well either. So you can look at a guy like Irv Smith. If you kind of look for him to play off the game last week, only $3,600. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of points. 10 points and you got your money's worth on Irv Smith as well. So that's kind of a lower price guy that I like. But I mean, with, like you kind of said in the beginning, with tight end, it's Kelce and everybody else. So if you're not getting Kelce in your lineup, play a couple of lineups and work a couple of tight ends in there.
Yeah. So I actually kind of like Zach Ertz this week. I know he's been just god awful, but at $3,400, I'll take the big upside. I think Jalen Hurts is going to try and work the middle of the field, work that short passing game, and I think Zach Ertz can benefit the most from that. Playing against Arizona, who statistically has not been very, very good against the tight ends in the last couple of years. At $3,400, I'm willing to take that high end shot. Zach Ertz is still one of the elite tight ends in the league, I believe. I know he's been terrible, but how much of that has been because of Carson Wentz? How much of that is because the offensive line has been hurt? So that offensive line is still hurt, but the threat of Jalen Hurts running more is going to open up more of the middle of the field. You're going to have linebackers stepping up, which is going to free up Zach Ertz. I can see Zach Ertz having a pretty big game this week. Besides him, let me bring this one name to you because he's been so much talked about at this position. Tyler Higbee, I think who's just absolute complete trash, and you were in on him. And I've eaten my crow with Gesicki earlier in the year when he wasn't very good. Hopefully you do the same with Tyler Higbee. But are you playing Higbee this week at $3,800 against the worst defense in football?
So I will tell you this. I, just for fun in a tournament, a dart throw tournament, I made a lineup of that I somehow managed to fit in Henry, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Tannehill. That did not leave me a lot of money elsewhere. Oh. And my tight end in that lineup is Tyler Higbee, who, we all know Higbee isn't really that good, right? He obviously is disappointed.
Thank you.
I will go on record as saying that. But for the $3,800, there are, you could do a lot worse at that price point. And again, you're going pretty far down that list of tight ends. to find Higbee. But I'll tell you, I mean, against the Jets, this is the Higbee game, right? This is where this is the 5 catches for 3 touchdown game that people kind of were expecting Higbee to have a lot more often than he has this year.
See, I disagree. I think it's just seems too obvious to be a Higbee game where it's going to be Cooper Kupp and it's going to be Robert Woods all day. Even hell, throw in some Josh Reynolds and Van Jefferson if you can. I think it's too obvious for Higbee. I think Higbee scores those big games against defenses that have good cornerbacks that stop the other guys. That in the red zone, it's got to be Higbee. But
maybe, but the one counter argument to that is, you had mentioned like why the Jets don't have the worst run defense in the league. They don't have a good run defense. They just literally have the worst pass defense in the league
by a mile.
Right. So running backs don't put up that many points against them because everyone's throwing it all over the field. But here's the thing. Higbee legitimately the Jets have legitimately give up the most points. Not second most, not one of the worst. They give up the most points to fantasy tight ends. That means they're obviously doing something wrong against tight ends, and it's not just because their corners are so bad. You know what I mean? Like they give up points to tight ends. They're offensive coordinators are finding something against you guys to just hit those little 10-yard outs.
Dude, they suck so bad. All right, let's get to the defense. Last week I gave you the Washington football team's defense. Pat on the back. They got 23 points on DraftKings last week, so I was pretty stoked about that. Even the Arizona Cardinals, who I played, also got me 17. So that was pretty exciting. This week, my defense that I'm going with is the Indianapolis Colts. I love Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson's an absolute superstar. The problem is there's nobody else around him, and I think he tries to force a little too much. Another team, Baltimore Ravens against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has completely given up on the season. What defense are you taking this week, Josh?
I really like 49ers against this week against Dallas. Dallas played the Red Rifle played not terribly last week, but San Francisco just is they're a good defense. Dallas is not a good team, and they're kind of down there pretty cheap. You're paying the same price for Seattle's defense, who isn't very good. You're paying less than the Bears defense. You're playing less than Chiefs against New Orleans even. For $3,100, I think you can save some money and have a nice game out of your defense there.
All right, let's get to our favorite segment of the week, the stack of the week. Now, obviously, we're taking Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown off the table because that is the obvious one. So besides the Tennessee Titans, Josh, who's your stack of the week?
Well,
now they got to start looking one up.
No. I have it, and I was going to tell you. It's a guy. I like this because it's 2 higher price guys, but not even close to highest at any of their positions. I don't know whether it's going to be a high scoring game and you're going to get the Jalen Hurts from last week, or you're just going to get kind of the garbagey Philly that we've been used to. But if Kyler Murray, who is starting to play healthy again, give me Kyler Murray and Nuck against that Philly defense. Kyler Murray is only priced at $7,000, which, from what we've been expecting from Kyler Murray early on in the season, is a very good bargain. And then in terms of wide receivers, same things. You have Tyreek and DK and Ridley all on the 8s. Give me DeAndre Hopkins still in the 7s there at $7,900. If you stack both Murray and Hopkins there, that can be the focal point of your team there, and you're actually not breaking the bank like you are on some of these other guys, and it still leaves you some good money elsewhere.
So screw you, because after you ruined my Tannehill AJ Brown, now you took Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins stack of the week. I swear, I'd already locked them in.
Great minds think alike, huh?
I'm just gonna stop letting you go first. Is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go with my backup. I'm gonna go with Tom Brady, and I think it's an Antonio Brown week. I just have a feeling that Atlanta's defense, while they are god awful, are going to focus so much on Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I think it's going to be Antonio Brown in the middle of the field this week. That is my stack of the week. Josh, you got anything for the people before we go?
Nothing. Just happy Hanukkah to everybody. And if we don't talk to everyone before, which I think we will, obviously Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope everyone's staying safe out there.
Yep, we're about a week and a couple days away from Christmas. We should have a show, and again, being the two Jews in the industry, maybe we'll do a show on Christmas. Just for the people. We'll do a Christmas. You got all the Thanksgiving
Christmas special.
We'll do the Christmas special. We're that crew. On every local sports radio station and every really radio station, you always have the Christmas crew, right? And it's normally like Alan Schwab or somebody. It's a name I made up, but it's
every crew, right? It's at the hospital. It's the doctors that are working. It's probably at the station. It's the Jews that are working. It's
all the Jews. So that's going to be us this year. We'll have you ready for Christmas. This way, while you're sipping your eggnog, sitting around the tree, make sure to listen to DFS Docket. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at DFS_Docket. Check out at Sideline Squib and check out at Sports Radio DET. Thank you to today's sponsors, TrophySmack.com. Season's coming to an end. Get your trophies, get your free ring now. Use the promo code SQUIB. Josh, I got nothing left. So with that.
Maybe listen just in case. Get it? The docket is gold. My pockets are swole. Stop, drop, and roll. At Lock on the Gold, it doesn't get old. Each episode, I just download. I'm just a fella that's hella intelligent now that I got me the code. Build me a yellow brick road. Hey, chillin', feelin'. How could I be this gifted? Millions, reelin'. Frying up all of these fish sticks. Enter all these competitions. I ain't seen no competition. Justice served, can't stop the system. I suggest y'all stop and listen. Please rise, sit down. Party's in session, get rich now. Invest in the best, yes, the investigator is nothing but fresh. Please rise, sit down. Party's in session, get rich now. Go by the book, yeah, the lawyer is loyal, now come take a look. Go.